Lady Hall, Professor, or Chairman, Reverend Bernard and Galbraith, or heads of churches, we are so pleased to have you. Distinguished guests all, old girls from all over the world, we're so pleased that you are here. Teachers, St. Andrew High School young ladies, good morning. I must also recognize the presence of the President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, my colleague and friend, Mrs. Nadine Malloy. She just got married and now I'm forgetting her name. Young. Mrs. Nadine Malloy Young. Mrs. Malloy Young, forgive me. We have known each other for so long, I completely forgot that last name. Welcome to you all. I promised the girls this wouldn't be a long function, and girls, I think you're getting a little disappointed in me, but we're getting there. I'm just going to quickly give you a background because a lot of the girls have been saying, what is Mrs. Reed going on with again this museum? A lot of questions, and I told them they'll see it when it comes into being. Just want to say that one of the things that impressed me immediately when I joined the staff of St. Andrew High as a teacher of history 28 years ago, what impressed me quite significantly was the pride with which old girls and students spoke of their rich heritage. In fact, the need to pass on the knowledge of this rich heritage was deemed so important that St. Andrew High was one of the first schools in Jamaica to formally introduce into the school curriculum the study of the history of the school alongside the study of the history of the nation. And Mrs. Myrtle White, the head of the history department, I think when that started, is here today. Welcome, Mrs. White. In recent times, the need to preserve this rich heritage has become a major concern of many of us as we experience in this generation a serious erosion of the sound moral and spiritual values that have been the bedrock of this nation. I was therefore very pleased to find out in discussions with old girl Margaret Bernal, and she comes and goes, you know, that she also shared this concern. And Margaret will come and join me because she'll be speaking to you shortly. And during the 2007 to 2008 school year, Margaret actually initiated a project to collect and collate relevant materials and artifacts with a view to preserving the school's history for posterity. Became a very exciting project. Many of our girls then helped her with all of the scanning of material and all that. And soon we came to realize that the project would not go much further unless a space could be identified somewhere on the campus to house the museum. We looked at all kinds of locations about the place, could not identify any, until one Saturday morning, I believe the Lord sent me down here. And somehow, we had just pictured the museum being right here. Spoke to my right hand as far as project coordination is concerned, Mrs. Maureen Chan, who is up here to a parent, and she said, yes, Mrs. Reed, it can be done. Let's call all those volunteers that have become a part of the staff of St. Andrew High. And so we want to acknowledge our architects, Mrs. Jackie Douglas Brown, and an old girl, and Miss Christina Bukal. They prepared the drawings. And the support team of volunteers, Mr. Joe Hammond, structural engineer, a friend of this school, a very good friend of Mrs. Ripoll, and he has remained close to the school. Mr. Owen Grant, former parent, quantity surveyor. Mr. Harry Brown, electrical engineer. And of course, Mrs. Chan, our project manager. This team of parents and old girls have done a fantastic job. We also want to say a big thank you. And of course, this was on a pro bono basis. Nobody gets paid for all this expertise here. St. Andrew does not have the money. There's a lot of talk around that St. Andrew is a rich school. St. Andrew is a school that has many benefactors, and we have a wonderful relationship with our parents and old girls. We don't have a lot of money, we have a lot of support. I want to invite Margaret now, quickly just to say a few words about the project. A lot of persons have been speaking to it, and she promises not to be too long. Right, Margaret?
Absolutely right. I obey Mrs. Reed, even though she's not my principal, but I was well trained by the others. Girls, I will say all protocols observed. That means that I don't have to acknowledge individually or distinguish guests, because we were part of one family. What I want to say briefly is addressed to you, the young ladies of St. Andrew, about this museum and its meaning for you. This museum is a labor of love, and it affirms a vision that looks backward to a multifaceted past, and it looks forward to your careers as productive, innovative young Jamaicans. It's built on the belief that Jamaican creativity, grounded in the experience of our past, is one of our most valuable and outstanding hallmarks. And it's recognized and emulated all around the world. We ourselves are not fully aware of just how copycatted we are. At this time in Jamaica, there are about 78 other local institutions dedicated to telling the heritage story of the Jamaican people, and 36 other Jamaican museums and cultural spaces island-wide. But the Emrie James School Museum is the first purpose-built school museum in this island. And truthfully, as part of the Jamaican family, we hope we will not be solitary too long. We want there to be lots of other museums. Young ladies, this museum is conceived as a workshop for the creative industries and a laboratory, such as the ones here, for you to develop new careers in the creative arts. This space is a place for young, multi-talented communities to be exposed to new career paths. Can you imagine a job where you work 2 half-days a week painting an intricate design on an egg, then you put the finished product in the storefront in the Disney store in Orlando, and you've made enough money to spend the rest of the week doing whatever you want? Or can you imagine being dressed in an antique costume in colonial Williamsburg, interpreting a period of history 200 years before your time, such as a young Jamaican from Spanish Town is doing right now, and earning a great living? Or could you imagine a career as a textile conservator, dealing with a 206-year-old military color or flag, which now lies 2 miles south of here in the Military Museum? These are the careers that await you. These are the careers that pay well and that need to be engaged in by you, to tell both the story of Jamaica and to tell your own future, to shape your own future as a professional. I hope one day to hear of a St. Andrew girl telling the story of Mary Seacole or Sir Hans Sloane, because this museum will be run as a professional space where you will be trained in many areas that I think Lady Hall mentioned before, and that I expect as of 12:30 today to start getting a list of volunteers. It has been for you, and it has been built on the generosity of spirit and the voluntary labor of the St. Andrew family. And young ladies, it is dedicated from us older heads to you, the future of Jamaica. Thank you.
Shortly, Ms. James will be revealing that beautiful sign that has been graciously and kindly done by the famous Mr. Trevor Figaro, and we want to just acknowledge his contribution with this sign. When you see it, you will understand why I say so. Ladies, we just want to remember the words of our national hero, Marcus Garvey, who reminded us that a man without knowledge of his history is like a tree without roots. And so even though this is taking a lot of your time, remember, as I told you, we are anchored in history to bear fruit for posterity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed, and as you take your place in the museum, I now invite us all to participate in the singing of verses 3 and 4 of the school hymn, We Build Our School. While singing, I invite the Honorable Dorothy McClarty to make her way, so she will be following the singing of these 3rd and 4th verses. Would you stand for the singing of this hymn? Caroline McDarty from our Board of Management to present to us the citation to Miss Emrie James.
Good morning, everyone. Do forgive me if I say all protocols observed, because this is really for Miss James. It is my privilege to read this tribute to Miss Emrie James. In 1944, a sylph-like, youthful 18-year-old stepped into the office to take up her place at the desk as the school secretary. Thus began the journey of Emrie James with St. Andrew High School for Girls. Officially, that journey ended after 42 years when she retired in 1986. But only her presence in the office ceased at that time, as you have continued to travel with us through the ensuing years. Miss Emrie James, Aunt Em to many, mother, especially to those who boarded, and I can vouch for that, and friend to all of us who make up the St. Andrew family. Today, we salute you and name this museum in your honor. A museum is a repository of history, and you carry it with you. Memories, tales, and the history of this wonderful institution. Never mind what you keep saying about your memory. You are our living museum. Most importantly, being the wise and efficient person that you are, with insight and foresight, you carefully ensured the preservation of historical material that has laid the groundwork for much of what is on display here today. Mindful as you were of preserving the records of the institution, which goes back to the very beginning, the 21st of September 1925, and in response to your deep appreciation and love for St. Andrew High School, you ensured that documents, records, files, and memorabilia were secured and stored. With this instinct to preserve, you embarked on a project to enlarge the vault to twice the original size. Everyone thought it was far-fetched. As usual, we had no funds, but you prevailed. Money for everything extra came from the canteen. Among your many duties, you managed the canteen and ensured that the much-needed funds were realized. During your tenure here, you devoted yourself totally to the school. You have seen the school developed and have been an integral part of that development. You always were the consequent professional, serving first as Secretary Miss Garshore and Miss Dawson, and then from 1967 as Executive Administrator, and for a while, Administrator to the Board, until your retirement. 42 years of unbroken service, except for 17 weeks vacation when you traveled overseas. You were concerned for the school as a whole, yet you never lost sight of the value of the individuals.